Greetings everyone, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, and I'm back to bring you another episode review from Season 8 of The Loud House. So let's get right into it. Today's episode is Sales Forced. In this episode, Lisa tries to raise money for a new telescope for her school science club and eventually begins using her new and improved salesmanship skills to sell more than just scented candles. I really didn't think I was going to like this episode when I first read the synopsis, but after watching it for the first time, I absolutely loved it. This was the best Lisa episode of Season 8, surpassing Incognito by the tiniest margin. The premise might sound very simple and kinda boring on paper, but how the episode makes use of it is what counts. It begins with Lisa trying to sell some scented candles for a school fundraiser, but given her typically blunt and not so professional demeanor, she does a terrible job at convincing her customers to buy them. That's when Lincoln, Lenny, and Lola try to teach her their individual methods on how to make a convincing sale. A big smile with eye contact, flattering compliments, and of course the legendary blue suit. Just gonna say it, Lisa looks so adorable wearing a tailored version of Lincoln's Master of Convincing suit. Even more so when she started donning a stereotypical slick salesman hairstyle. Anyway, she tries to implement her siblings' methods on Cheryl, but once again fails miserably. I mean, with that creepy face and those eyes, the last thing she'd ever get out of me is any amount of money. Even though she's a certified genius, Lisa clearly lacked the brain power to be an effective salesperson. That's when she decided to enlarge the part of her brain responsible for salesmanship to make herself more convincing, although she ended up enlarging that part of her brain a bit too much. I have to say, the moment Lisa put on that helmet, I couldn't have been the only one thinking about that brain drain/gain helmet from that one episode of Jimmy Neutron. Not the one where it made Jimmy dumber, the one where it made Sheen incredibly smart. He was yielding positive results in the beginning, but then he turned into a complete narcissist who didn't want to give up on his ever-increasing intelligence. This caused him to start making bad decisions and hurting his friends in the process, until he eventually decided to shrink the size of his brain to make everything normal again. Lisa goes through a somewhat similar situation in this episode. She manages to sell every candle and raise the money needed for the telescope, and she's way too happy and energized to give up on the wave of momentum she has as an effective saleswoman. I mean, with that kind of slicked back hairstyle and highly persuasive speaking skills, even I would be convinced to give her a certain amount of money. She begins using her artificially enhanced salesmanship skills to sell a bunch of her family's possessions, even going so far as to try selling their house. This is where I have to talk about Todd, a character I almost never talk about. Even though he's just the robot, he was actually a good voice of reason when he realized Lisa was taking her newly enhanced skills way too far. He tried to put the helmet on Lisa's head so he could get her back to normal, and Lisa retaliated by convincing someone to purchase the robot and then tie him to the back of their car. As he was being driven away, Todd yelled out how even though she sold him off, he still considered Lisa his best friend. That's when something got triggered in Lisa's brain, and she slowly came to the realization that she just did something she would never do under any circumstance. This led to Lisa going through an internal and external back and forth struggle between her regular persona and her slick saleswoman persona. This was my favorite scene of the entire episode. It was a cartoony take on the classic Jekyll and Hyde trope. She can be seen verbally, physically, and mentally fighting with herself as both of her personalities were struggling for control of her body. She keeps changing her hairstyle every time she switches between personalities, and it got to the point where her sales persona had her regular persona pinned down to the ground. In real life, sales Lisa would have been looking at the grass, and regular Lisa would have been looking at the sky the whole time. All of that does look and sound kinda silly and bizarre to those watching, but from a character development perspective, this sequence was brilliantly executed in terms of both action and dialogue. Soon, regular Lisa is able to outsmart sales Lisa by trying to get her to make an effective sales pitch for the brain enhancement helmet. Regular Lisa tricks sales Lisa into putting on the helmet for a demonstration, and Lisa successfully maintains her regular persona just long enough to activate the helmet and bring herself back to normal. The story ends with Lisa making amends with Todd, and Todd making sure Lisa doesn't try to be a saleswoman for a school fundraiser ever again. Although destroying Lisa's computer in response to the fundraising notification was a bit of an overreaction. Overall, this episode was very creative and very enjoyable. Lisa had one of her best roles in Season 8, in my opinion. The way she went from being a less than effective salesperson to an extremely effective salesperson was very entertaining. From how she dressed, to how she performed as a salesperson, to how she literally had to fight herself to undo the damage she caused, there was never a dull moment whenever she was on screen. Todd was also a very noteworthy highlight. Lisa may have done him dirty, but the fact he was willing to look past what she did and still consider her his best friend was very admirable. Even though the way Lisa was able to snap back to normal simply because someone said, "You're my best friend," can be viewed as a very cliche media trope, It actually works very well for this kind of episode. As I said earlier, you can have a simple and boring premise on paper, but it's what you do with it is the real test. In my opinion, this episode took the typical poor to super effective salesperson premise and turned it into a very engaging story. Lisa's sales persona was very slick, the internal and physical fight she had with herself was the biggest standout, and the payoff at the end was very satisfying. As of this recording, it has earned a place on my top 10 list for Season 8. I would definitely recommend watching this one, especially if Lisa is your favorite character. Whether you think this was a good or bad episode is up to you, but hopefully I was able to sell you on the idea of giving it a chance. If I was able to convince you to watch the episode and you ended up hating it, just remember, no refunds! With that said, I give Salesforced a 9.4 out of 10. Well folks, that concludes my review of Salesforced. So I gotta ask, what did you guys think of this episode? Sound off in the comments below, and be sure to click that subscribe button for more Loud House related content. That's going to do it for me. I'll catch you guys for the next video, but until then, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, signing off. Peace out, home slices.